If you've ever played D&D online, and I think most of us did during the pandemic at least, you've probably used Roll20 at some point. Roll20 used to be pretty much the only online platform in the biz, and it's been around since 2012. These days we have more and more viable options in the virtual tabletop space, and Wizards is now developing their own in D&D Beyond, so Roll20 is going to have to innovate to stay in the game. Personally, I found all of the platforms to be a little bit cumbersome to use. Most of them support quite a few different game systems with different rules, and they allow map editing and character creation and combat and monster stat blocks and card dealing and dice rolls and just a host of different features. So designing a simple, intuitive, and comprehensive user interface is a monumental challenge. Well, Roll20 is revamping their own main UI right now, and I wanted to know all about it. So I invited Morgan Buck, Roll20's Chief Technology Officer, and Andrew Searles, their Principal Product Manager, to the Gallant Goblin to answer my questions and tell me all about it. And I collected some questions from you all in the Discord channel over at the Gallant Goblin to get some more questions for them as well. So let's learn more about the new Roll20. Before we jump in, we talk a lot here about the Hit Point Press products, as they've been keeping us on the air for several years now. But if you do have a lot of campaigns on Roll20, Hit Point has quite a few products there as well that you can use to liven up your games, including all of their animated decks. Each set will get you the digital animated cards that you can use in your games, plus static and animated tokens to add to your game board. But the Hit Point Press Roll20 product that I've gotten the most use out of personally is the Humblewood campaign. One of my favorite campaigns I've ever run, and Roll20 made prepping each session so much easier. Everything is included, it is all drag and drop, the maps are loaded and ready to go. It made that campaign possible for me. Check out their animated cards at animatedspells.com and check the link below to find all of their Roll20 products. Now, let me welcome to the Gallant Goblin, Morgan Buck and Andrew Searles. Morgan and Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today. How are y'all doing tonight?
Doing great. I'm really excited to talk, and I'm very thankful that you let us come on and talk about the new things that we're doing.
I'm so excited. I spent the entire day just like whittling down the questions I have because I have so many. I've been on Roll20 since I first started playing role-playing games back. I got started in 2017, and so I have been using the system for so long, and I know that I'm not using it to its full potential. Y'all have developed, I can't imagine how complex the code base is for the number of systems and assets that you all have managed to put into this and build it over time. And so I'm really curious to hear, I know you're going for a push for a lot of new updates, new UI designs. So I want to throw out there just to start with, what are the exciting new announcements that you have? Where is Roll20 going in 2023?
Yeah. Well, to your point, you're absolutely right. Over the years, Roll20 has been around for 11 years now, a little bit more. But around 11 years, and over that time, we have added on functionality and new feature after new feature. And now we feel like it is a really great time for us to start redesigning the whole experience from the ground up. Not necessarily throwing away everything from the past, but rather starting with what we have and reintroducing sort of a new parts of it. So we are redesigning the VTT. That is the sort of big thing if you have not heard. And we are starting with the toolbar. That's going to be the first thing that we release. And we're going to be releasing it at the end of this month, at the end of May. I should be specific. And the reason we're starting with the toolbar is because it is a small part that has lots of implications for the whole VTT. But it's a small place where we can start engaging with the people that actually use it, and how they use it during their games, and that will help us turn this from a monologue into a dialogue of, does this work? Does this make things easier for you? Yes or no? And then we'll start making it better and better and better. Our deepest desire there, the question we get a lot in there is, why are we doing this redesign? And it's not necessarily just that we need to make it more modern looking, although that is a part of it. But our deep desire, and as you kind of insinuated there, we want to make this easy to use from the very beginning. We've got a lot of complex features in there, and that should open up lots of different things that you can do with it. But at its heart, we want to make it very easy for you to tell your story, and for the UI to fade into the background. A friend of mine says it this way, and I've always loved it. And he says that when I think back to those quintessential moments in role-playing, I want to see my memories. I want to see the stories that I told with my friends. I want to see those characters and the epic things that they did. I don't want to see a UI that wasn't working properly. And that's our goal, is to help you tell better stories and create better shared memories with your friends.
Yeah, and so as we added those features over the years, like Andrew said, I think one of the things is that those just kind of get added in, and so everything's sort of at the same level of hierarchy right now. And I think that's why, what you said is true. There are a lot of people who are longtime users who just don't know what all is available or what you can gain access to. And then I think new users have it even a little bit tougher. They come straight into the deep end, where everything from the most advanced, most nuanced feature to the things that you absolutely need to understand in order to be able to do basic interactions, they're all kind of right there at that same level of hierarchy. And so a lot of this is really about, what are the most essential behaviors? Can we lead you straight into those? And then can we guide you from there to being able to do all of the other things that you want to do? How can we expose the functionality right where it is when you're desiring it, and kind of make you aware of what's possible without what's possible getting in the way of what you need to do right now?
Are you looking to build tutorials like this into the system itself, or are you looking to possibly just still have another place that people go, whether it be your TikTok channel or social media, to kind of learn the system?
Yeah, so actually today we do have a tutorial that will walk you through some of the things. It's rudimentary, I should say we have two different things that were in there. The tour, which will walk you through a few of the steps in the VTT. We also have a tutorial. So if you go under games, you can say get a tutorial, and that'll walk you through the sort of the game and the mechanics of it, and you can kind of play around with how things work in a safe environment where you won't mess anything up in your current game. A part of that is part of this redesign effort is going to be trying to redesign basic flows, like I want to start a map, I want to add a token, and making sure that those are super clean and super easy. As we do so, we want to make sure that people are easily finding those things on their own, right? Oftentimes, a lot of products, especially SaaS software, will lean on things like tours to make something super, super complicated simpler, when in actuality, you could just make it a lot simpler and more intuitive. We want to err on the side of, you shouldn't need to like a thing to walk you through it at first. Mm-hmm. We want to make it intuitive from the very beginning. Then add on a tour to make it still even more easy, right? In essence, we want the tour to take you the last little bit of the way, and we want ease of use and intuitive to take you the majority of the way. And so that's part of the main reason why we're doing this redesign, is to make sure that everything is really intuitive. You don't have to try to figure it out. It's not undiscoverable is a term that we use.
Right. I think that's been the primary issue that I've had with my players with almost all VTTs out there, is that they are necessarily complex, especially if they're trying to support more than one game. And so it is but it does feel like a lot of them were, and I say this a little bit derisively, it feels like the UI design oftentimes was designed by engineers rather than UI experts, because the UI can take you so far into making things feel intuitive based on your prior experiences with other UI systems. So it sounds like that's going to be your focus, is making this as intuitive as possible based on what the kind of our other experiences with other systems and software. Does that sound about right, where you're kind of putting your focus?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I've played a lot of VTTs, both in just because I like playing and I play a lot, and because I like to see what other people are doing and how they're working. And there are a lot of VTTs that that can get very complicated. And ours can be one of those at times. We want to make sure that we are continuing to make it easy to tell your story. So that's what we're going to continue to focus on, and to try to make happen. There is a lot of complicated problems to solve in there, and sometimes it's not easy to make it easy.
No, it has to be extremely hard, I can imagine.
Right. Well, and in a lot of ways too, over the years, Roll20 has grown and grown and grown, especially after the pandemic. And now that we are sort of coming out of the pandemic, kind of, to some degree, there is a lot more people that are playing on Roll20 now than there were when we started. And the way I talk about this with our team is that the stakes are higher. We've got to be better, right? Whereas before, there was still lots of on the line, but now that has doubled and tripled because of what has happened. And we've got to be professional. We got to do this right. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So.
And I feel like there's just more players especially with the big movie that came out. Like there's just a lot more players in the space to begin with. And now that we've all gotten used to video chatting, it makes playing these games online feel a lot more natural. I know there was some resistance at first. But let me ask you, so we're starting off with the toolbar on the left side of the screen. I know one thing that y'all are looking at pulling out is like what tier level of the map that you're on at any given time to make that very obvious to players. Because I've had that. We're trying to go grab a token. It's like, oh, it's on this layer and I'm on the wrong layer here. So that's, I think, I've heard is one of the things you're looking to pull out. Once we move past the toolbar, kind of what's the next area of focus, if that's something you're ready to talk about?
Yeah, okay, so you're absolutely right. We pulled out the layers. That was one of the big things, actually, in our initial design research we did a while ago at this point now. That kind of led to this whole initiative. We started to realize that we couldn't even do proper user testing because people could not find where the layers were, or that we even had layers in some cases. And that was a huge source of problems. And so we pulled that out, and now it's in its own space. And honestly, when you look at it, you're like, that seems like hits you in the face stupid, and it should just be there. And so those are the kind of things that we're going to definitely hit first, or just like, of course, it should just be that way, and that is a part of it. It is a small change, and it is one of many small changes as we will go. It might have a huge impact, but it is a small change under the hood. And we hope to be able to do quite a lot of small changes as we go that will have major impacts. One of the next things that we hope to do that I feel really confident to be able to tell you is we are working on the measuring tool as well. We're going to release this without the updates to the measuring tool. So at the end of this month, you'll be able to opt into the new toolbar and get the new layers and play around with it. We want your feedback from that, so make sure you let us know. But after that, we know that there's a few things right away that we're going to start trying to do. We're going to do the measure tool, and we're going to redo the measure tool, and we're hoping to redesign it in a way that you can use new shapes to measure with. For example, you can measure in a cone or a square or a circle. And we're hoping that will allow people to do a lot more with measuring things from the map, especially around spell effects and things like that. And then once we get to that point, there's a number of other things that we want to do. And eventually we are going to redesign the whole thing. So it's all on the thing. But we're going to kind of hold off and wait until others tell us what are the most important things, right? We're going to listen to our customers, and when we start to realize, okay, that's a thing we have to do, that's when we're going to start making commitments as to what are the things that we really need to work on.
Yeah, we have designs going pretty far out. I think there are things that we're looking at internally that kind of show us like a grand vision for where the whole thing could end up. But we're kind of moving through and trying to prioritize it based on user need and going the next place. So there's a to Andrew's point, we're planning to do the whole thing, but we want to go in the kind of an order that's informed by users and what are going to be the most impactful for the major types of interactions people do in a session.
Yeah.
Awesome. Would it be, when you're talking like the measuring tool, like I'm thinking about being able to choose your player's crossbow attack, and then have it on the map, and then have those two ranges just already evident, so you can see who's really within your range. Or if you go choose your fireball spell off your character sheet and you start getting ready to cast it, it'll show you that area where that fireball would affect. Is that kind of maybe kind of, as opposed to just like a tool that you kind of go separately, like tying it in as much as possible to the character sheet? Would that be something that you're kind of looking at as well?
Not initially. And the reason for that is not because we don't think it would be valuable. That would be huge. That is exactly the kind of direction that we want to go, where it's really easy and straightforward, where we're starting to interpret the rules of a specific game for you. The problem, though, is the interaction between those two things right now can get really, really complicated. Again, it's very complex to make something very easy. And so what we want to try to do is meter our response. While we want to make it as easy as possible, we also need to make sure that we're not going to take, it's not going to have to redo the entirety of the system for us to be able to put something out. So there's this sort of constant balance between what can we do to make it really easy, and what can we do quickly to make it that way. And in this case, we think we can add these things quickly, while not necessarily the entirety of that. Like, I want to see how far my fireball can go and then see the area and radius of the fireball itself. It is still a step forward in a really positive direction.
Excellent. Yeah, to have to start with these steps that will apply to everything, rather than just focusing in on Pathfinder 2nd edition rules, because everything is going to be different, I assume. Let me ask you about another issue that I've kind of come across, like in all my years of using Roll20. Now that it's grown and grown and grown, you've integrated so many different games and modules, and now DM's Guild content and other One Bookshelf content. What kind of focus is there on just organizing all the things that we now have in our libraries to be able to go and grab it when we need it? If we need a bugbear token, or we want to grab a map from this adventure because we think it'll fit in this adventure, is there a focus on kind of elevating all that content so we can grab it when we need it?
Do you want that one, Andrew, or should I hop in here?
I think that there is, so the integration with One Bookshelf happened, or is currently still happening, but it started about a year ago. We're still sort of in that process of trying to align those two things. One of the big blockers to what you're talking about is something that we're calling a unified lock-in. And that is going to be required for us to be able to start getting that information from one side to the other. So I think the way I would answer that is it is definitely something that we want to try to integrate more. But there are some blockers here that we'll have to go through before we get to that point.
Yeah, there are some other things I think nested in what you're talking about there that I think are related, and that we have been thinking about. So for example, I think right now there's this really big distinction on Roll20 between what is a module and what is an add-on. And add-ons have these pieces of like modular content that you can, ironically, they're the modular ones that you can kind of pull in wherever you need them, add maps into something else from a piece of content you purchased. Whereas modules are more kind of like these large monoliths. I'm going to play through, an entire campaign or something like that. And I think the way that we were originally setting these up and the way that they got built by our community creators and by our content team really made that particular distinction make sense. But I think as time goes on, it does make less and less sense. And I think figuring out how to get that interface and what it looks like to interact with that better tied into the system, so that the content that you've got available is easier to kind of crack out of it and use it in the places that you're interested in. We've definitely talked about that. It's something that I have had folks look into, do research. We've got some pitches internally for it. I will say that we're barking up a couple of other trees in the immediate term right here. So that's not our topmost priority, but it is something on our radar for sure.
Yeah, I love that, because right now sometimes when I'm playing an adventure, I have to kind of go and log out of that adventure, a little bit of another one, grab a token I want, kind of come back in, and I know that those are very complicated things that have to be addressed. So about how those progress. But let me ask you this: now that we have so much competition in the VTT space, and we have Wizards doing their own thing now, where do you see Roll20 as being differentiating itself from the competition, and where would y'all see yourselves moving in the VTT space, maybe in general, over the next 5 years or so?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
first, go
Go ahead,
Morgan.
Andrew. No, you go for it.
Oh, I was gonna first. I would probably say that a counter to most industries, we are really excited about competition because it makes all of us better. Ultimately, and one of the reasons why I personally am working at Roll20 and I love working at Roll20 is because I want to spend the rest of my life making the role-playing game industry bigger and bigger and bigger. More people should be involved, and it should be there should be more games that are just as popular, right? And so that is sort of my career mission is to take role-playing games, the industry itself, to a whole new level. And I think that we're going to have some level of competition to make that happen. We're going to have lots of different ways that people like to play, with lots of different sort of specific methods of playing this game and that game in order for all of us to get better and better and better. So I'm very, very excited about that. It's not a competitive in the sense of like we're all like very angry with each other. I think it's competitive in we're all being sportsmanlike, and we all are sort of looking to see if we can make each other better. And that part I think is great. The other part of that, I think you mentioned about the D&D VTT that they've talked about, and the thing I would mention there is that we recognize that there are lots and lots of different ways that people like to play. And there are so many ways, in fact, that I don't think one platform at this stage in the game will be able to cover a large majority of those. And so. Right. I've seen what they are doing, and I think it's going to look great. But I know that not everybody is going to want to play that way. And for those that don't, we want to be sure that they have a way that they can play. And the people that do want to play, I'm excited to see that. In fact, I can guarantee you I'm going to be looking in there and seeing what they've got, and I'm excited along with them. So,
Morgan?
Yeah, I mean, so when I think looking at what's going on with Andrew's project and how we're thinking about it gets really at the crux of kind of what I think we have that's unique, and how I feel that we need to be doubling down on it. You know, I think that there are a lot of products in the market that lean very heavily into having lots and lots of tools to automate game flow, to be able to play, you know, the game that you're playing at a very high level of fidelity. And there are platforms that are really focused on, just getting straight into it and just being simple, streamlined, quick, easy to get into. I think that, you know, we're in this interesting hybrid role where we have a pretty deep slate of very advanced tools. And we also have the advantage of a pretty low barrier to entry, both that we're free, and it's easy to sign up and just hop immediately into the VTT and get started hacking at things. We have a big library of really polished content that people can hop in and start running on and things like that. But I think that we haven't executed on that goal of being low barrier to entry in a strong enough way to make those two pieces connect. I think we've really got to. If we're saying that it is easy for people to hop into Roll20 and pick it up, that also means that once they land on the VTT, which is very easy to get to, they also know what they need to do next. I think there's like a bit more of a journey that's must be crossed to get there. I think the depth of content is a big part of it too. Our content conversion team is really incredible. They get faster and faster every single year. They produce some really incredible modules for a huge number of game systems. I think we're in kind of that unique position where we're sort of got one toe into a couple of different differentiators. And then, I think another way that we think about this too is that we have a lot of product surface area, and most most of the other companies that are working in the space kind of cover some particular wedge of what we've got, right? So we've got compendiums, we've got character sheets for, I don't know, like 1,500 systems. We've got the VTT, we have the community marketplace. And so I think that's something that you're going to see more in the types of things that we do, is sort of saying, like, this is a multi-product solution. Like we're trying to provide you with a lot of different tools to engage with, your favorite games in whatever way is best for you. And I think we want to go even further into that, so that, that low barrier to entry, you can just go there, you can make an account real quick and easy, free to access, carries you even further and gives you even more tools at your disposal, play in more ways.
I love that. And as creators here, we've talked about a little bit of the DM's Guild integration and One Bookshelf. And we've created a couple of products over the years ourselves, and they reached out to us a couple weeks ago. I don't even know if they know we're related to the channel necessarily, but they wanted to start bringing in one of the little adventure I wrote into Roll20, and I'm excited to see that. As somebody who just started the system, like seeing one of my own products showing up on Roll20 is kind of exciting for me. And I was wondering, with this new integration where fans can create content for not just D&D but other systems as well, do you have what do you think this means for the creator community, for the player community, and having access suddenly to some really cool fan-made new modules and adventures and assets that people can bring in, and along with that, if people are creators, how could they go about possibly getting some of their products into Roll20 as well? Because I'm sure they'd be as excited as I was about that.
Yeah. So I think this is something that's really core to our, like, who we are as a company and what we're proud of. I think one thing that I will always come back to, and every time I'm, interviewing somebody and they ask me what I like most about working at Roll20, I tell the story that, we got emails from people during the pandemic whose companies shut down or, weren't able to do remote work in some way, who were able to get by during that period of time by selling content on Roll20 marketplaces. And that was just like, just in terms of being able to have like a positive impact on people in the space, it's hard to top that type of thing. I think I really, I think that this is such a creative space. People who are in tabletop role-playing games are in it for passion, because they want to build things with their own two hands, and facilitating that is really big. I think that's what makes this hobby so powerful and unique. The creation is more accessible than it is in other places. Like, people aren't just really quickly homebrewing a Call of Duty variant for their friends to play on the weekend for an audience of 5, like the accessibility of being able to create things. And I think making that bigger, like Andrew said, making this a space where more people can come in and create and succeed and find an audience and, create something unique. We talk a lot about like lowering barriers to entry, about rising tide, things like that. That's like a big topic of conversation. Is how do we say, for these smaller creators who are just passionate about it, how do we make it easier for them to get into the market, find an audience, market themselves? I think DriveThruRPG does some really great things in terms of providing people who are sellers on there with tools to choose to promote their content and pull it up above without necessarily like having to pay for advertising or things like that. As just kind of one example, the print on demand services, all of those sorts of things are kind of ways of saying, how can we take the types of things that you can only do if you have big publisher resources, and how do we do at least the best that we can to give more people access to it? And that's what's super cool about all of these. We're not just it's not just DM's Guild. We want to have this type of community content for Pathfinder Infinite and Miskatonic and all of those other groups we want to move into for the DM's Guild in general. I'm sorry, not DM's Guild in general, for DriveThruRPG in general. Just more ways for people to get whatever type of content they want. I can provide you after this with some links for people to contact. We've got publisher or content creator onboarding pages for both DriveThru and for Roll20 to get people started. And basically, if you're looking to try to get your products like up and onto the marketplace, the best way is really to kind of get set up with both of the sites. Until we get that shared login that Andrew was talking about set up, the process basically looks like, you come in, you create a module the same way that you would if you were just creating a module for Roll20. You create your product over on, the one of the DriveThru family of sites. And then there's, some tools in the back end for content creators to link those together so that those products can be connected, that purchasing one can unlock the other. But we've got onboarding tools for it. There's documentation, and the team over there is eager to help people out. We have a Discord channel for creators too. I can share a link to that also.
Perfect. We'll put all those links down below the video, so if you're watching now, go check that video description and look for those links. My adventure, I Am Your World, I guess, is hopefully on its way to Roll20. We would love to see, we do Queer Finder for Pathfinder Infinite and several other products, and just see, there's just something about, you mentioned print on demand, when you're kind of getting started in the creator space, seeing your own work as a physical book that you can show your friends, and then seeing it on a marketplace online or on Roll20 and see other people play it. It's so validating. And so on the just monetarily, being able to kind of get by in a hard time is fantastic. But just the kind of validation of seeing other people getting to enjoy your content is so awesome. So I'm really looking forward to seeing kind of how y'all expand all that content, because it's also just a lot more fun stuff for all the players to play when they get access to all these other things. So absolutely love it. What I wanted to do now, I think that Andrew, you wanted to walk us through a little bit of a demonstration of some of the new cool tools coming to Roll20. So do we want to kind of go through that real quick, and you can kind of show us a little tease about what we have coming toward the end of the month here?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're looking at here is when we release this, you will get an opt-in menu. It will not look like this. So Mark 1 for this demo, not demoing the thing it actually looks like. But it will look different. We're still building this out. But you'll be able to see what's new, what we've changed. You'll be able to opt in. But for now, the purposes of this, having this opt-in is important for us. It shows that we are serious about getting customer feedback and not pushing this on users until it really does start making things easier for them. We actually have internal bars that we're going to set by our own volition around the opt-in and the adoption of this opt-in. When we hit those bars, then we know, okay, this is something that is easier for people. People are finding it easier and they are opting in because of it, and that will trigger new things. If we don't, then we absolutely know this is not the thing for us, and we won't push it on people. So opt-in, you can do that pretty quickly. It will refresh your page, and then you will get the new toolbar, which is over here onto the side, right there. Pretty straightforward. It's got all the same tools that you've had before, maybe a few new icons, maybe a few new placements of those things. But the big thing that we've been talking about is these layers here at the bottom. You can see that you can quickly switch between them, and it will stay active so you know exactly which layer you're on. This will solve a few problems that are really, really important. And as you can see in this Curse of Strahd Death House module, it switched between each one of those layers. The other things that we've changed, we've added this new thing here at the top. It's called the settings area. And that has a couple of options that we're kind of bringing up to the forefront that we see as very important to your gameplay that have never had a place to put them in the past. So for example, on this one, preview as player, you'll be able to actually let me go to the token layer. Sorry, I should have done that first. You'll be able to preview as player and see the tokens that you have on the map. And you can also see down here the tokens that you're previewing as. This is distinctly different than before. The same functionality, but now it's in a place where you can find it a lot easier. Better discoverability, as we talked about before. But you can still see the shortcut. There's a couple other things in here, like copy a game link. Yeah.
I was gonna say that was something that I literally needed. I was playing Storm King's Thunder online with my group, my Patreon group, like last weekend, and I really wanted to be able to kind of preview as a player, and I couldn't quite figure out how to get it to work. And so seeing it just that easily accessible is going to be really helpful for me, at least. I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you can select a specific token, and it'll show you which token you're previewing as. So you can see that one specifically, and you can move around and see what does it look like for the actual player that owns this token.
Can you also use it for NPCs or monsters?
You can, yes. If those tokens have sight, you can. Yeah, you can see what that one token has. Yes. So other things that are notable, most of these tools are the same tools that you've had before. So I'll just run down them really quickly. There is a change down here. So this is the measure tool. We'll make a change later on. We're not right now. But there is a change down here on this dice toolbar. You can see that we've redesigned it a little bit. And now, instead of just hovering over it and then hovering over the roll that you want and it going away, it actually stays on top. So, and this is for a player too. So for a player, they can just open this up and leave this here, and they can just use it as they wish. If it gets in the way, they can close it out and not have it. But that way it pulls up for them and it stays there for them if they need it, if they use the rolls often. The zooming has been redesigned a little bit. Most notably, the thing that you can do is click on here and you can do a zoom to fit, which is really nice. So you can see where the focus is at. That's a really important one of those. And then for the players out there, they will be able to opt in themselves. So it won't be on a game by game basis. You can opt in just for your own self. If you're the GM, you might just want to opt in and let the players use the old one for a while, just so you can make sure that everything's okay. But players can make that choice on their own. And this is what their toolbar will look like. Of course, there's no layers because for the players, they don't need layers. But they've got all the same tools as before.
No, that is very cool, because I know that it in some ways seems like minor adjustments to the system, but I think that you talk like this fundamental, the foundation of Roll20, the tabletop system, like having those layers on the surface where you can easily see where you are and easily switch between them instead of having to dig through menus, and having being able to view other tokens and monsters. Like those are all fundamental things that we use many times as we're playing every single day. And so having that, just making those steps now is going to make a huge difference, I think, in the way we play the game. So that's very exciting. Do y'all have any, let me ask you one question to kind of wrap things up a little bit for each one of you. Is there something in Roll20 that maybe a lot of us don't know about, that's like a feature that you find really cool or exciting, that maybe is not something evident to everybody? Like for me, like I thought there was a way to view those tokens like as a player, but I couldn't quite suss out how to do it. So knowing that was in there was amazing. But do y'all have a special one close to your heart that you can tell us about? Andrew, why don't you go first?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. So it took me a while to realize this. I've been playing on Roll20 for a very, very long time. And it took me probably a year and a half of running a game and then realizing when another one of my players just happened upon it. And I was like, stop it. How did you do that? Everything stops right now until we learn how that happened. What did you do? And it was around with a token. So when you're moving a token, you can actually have it show you the distance that the token will move. And you can actually have it show you not just in one length of how far the token will move, but in multiple ways. So you can right click while you hold that token and then click, and then click again to show how the token will move around that map. And not just how it will move, show it to other players, but actually the distance that token will move. Made all the difference in the world. Previously, I had been move it and then decide okay, then do the math and then move it again and then do the math. And then just to find out that I can't actually move that far and then move it all the way back.
Yeah. I have to zoom in, like we get on, like try to count squares as best I can with my reading glass. So you just you right click on the token and drag it and click as you go with the left mouse button.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Right. Well, we can. I can give you the link to the actual thing. We can include it in the notes. But ultimately, counting squares is for the birds. If you have to count squares, then something's going wrong.
Awesome. I had no idea. That's gonna change my game too. Like I was your TikTok channel, by the way, you have a TikTok channel where they're starting to do a couple of like little tips and things like that. And so if you're on TikTok and you want to learn a couple of neat little things, that's another place to look. Morgan, what was your secret feature that you want to tell us about if you have one?
Ooh, yeah. So, okay. So I'm gonna word this in a way to buy myself an extra one. To cheat.
Sure.
But
Morgan gets two. But how come I can't have two?
I was gonna start with mod scripts because I have a GM who started doing really crazy stuff with add-on mod scripts. Like auto area of effect for spells. I don't know if you play any of the Fantasy Flight games, but there's a great community created mod tool for that makes that whole dice engine work so much more simply. Those are super cool. But then I realized that there was a different one that I had to say because I actually didn't know about this one until like a month ago. But I don't know if you've ever had a GM set up for you token actions so that you can like have an action sitting at the bottom of your screen. It's like a repeat action for your character. And, as a GM, I'll go into the settings menu and I'll set those up and do it myself. And sometimes I'll like go be nice for my friends and I'll set one up for them, but it's a very manual process. I didn't realize until like a month ago that you can take an action that's on a character sheet, click on it, drag, and pull it down to the bottom of the top of the screen and automatically create one of those. So you've just got quick access to one of the pieces of functionality from your character sheet without having to open it. I work here, guys. And I had no clue.
No, I mean it's such a Roll20's been around for so long, and so many things have been added and added and added, and there's so many different game systems. Even the functionality of using a deck of cards and drawing cards and setting up roll tables. Like there's so much in there, which I understand makes it so hard to make these kind of fundamental changes because everything is going to affect everything else, and so there's always that cascade you have to worry about. But yeah, that action thing, I had completely forgotten that existed because I set that up for my players when I first learned back a long time ago. I'd set that up for my players and I was so excited, and I have since forgotten that it existed. So I appreciate you reminding me of that.
Ooh,
Andrew, did you have one more you want to share with us?
I did. She got two, I get two.
That's fair.
So I just recently learned, attached to something that she was saying, is you can actually take a journal entry and drag it over the picture of somebody or their name, and it will show it just to that person, which is really, really neat. Yeah.
I'm one of those who likes to do that when there's maybe a perception check that somebody's sneaking around a corner and they're looking around just themselves. I want to just show that one player, when they are intuiting something from somebody's body language. I want just that player to know, so whisper them in chat. So all those things just make the game so much more fun.
You can whisper to them in video.
No, I did not know that either.
Yeah, you can. I think it's a right click. I can't remember for sure. It's a right clicker from the drop down menu on someone's video frame. Whisper to them. It will temporarily mute all the other channels.
Oh wow!
So you can just talk to them. Yeah.
Do you have your Roll20 guru over there? That is the person who just knows all of this. Like, do you have one person there who's maybe been there forever? Who's like, when you have these questions,
I think you have to combine a few people. You have to combine
you have to add them up.
because no one person can know it all. That's our motto.
I can imagine. It's a huge system, and it's done so much to help the community too. Like I would not have been able to run anything since I got started. I've used it for especially anything I do online, and sometimes we're just at the table. It's so much easier just to load up a map on the computer and put it on the TV next to us and do it that way, right? So I don't have to try to scribble something on graph paper or something else. And so it's not just for remote play too, but I can sit and talk to you all day. I know it's getting late for you all, and you probably want to go have some dinner. So thank you so much for sharing this with us today. As you continue to make progress in your updates, we'd love for you all to kind of come back and share anything new that you have with us. It's just a joy to talk to you all, so thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Many thanks to Morgan and Andrew for joining us today. I have all the links they mentioned in the doohickey down below, so be sure to check those out. And let me know what you think of the changes to the UI. Also, be sure to check out the animated cards from Hit Point Press at animatedspells.com and their Roll20 products at the link down below. We are opening up our own little Roll20 shop here as well, starting with my first adventure, I Am Your World. So that's coming, I think, later this summer, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, you can find us on these fine websites on this side? This side? I don't know. And you can always join us on Discord as well. For now, though, please stay safe, have fun, love each other, and I will see you next time at the Gallant Goblin.